Out of the gates, ready to go. OutKick 360 underway. Tuesday edition is here. The crew is all here. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. John McClain will join us in an hour. We'll talk NFL headlines. Jamar Smith from the Birmingham Stallions plays for a USFL title this coming weekend. He will join us in hour number 3. And a plenty of headlines and discussion throughout today's show. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm ready for a big show today. I'm always ready. At least I like to think so. But today, I'm definitely ready.
I, too, am ready. I'm very curious about the Deshaun Watson hearing. I'm curious if it takes a day, if it takes 2 days. The other element of this that I'm curious about, I don't think it could happen. But, Roger Goodell doesn't have to be the guy that rules on this when it comes to him. He can assign somebody. So he could conceivably give this to Troy Vincent, who would be the most likely deputy that he would assign it to if he wanted to say, I'm not being judge and jury here, somebody else is, which would create a whole nother ripple effect. I can't imagine him doing that, but it's in the realm of possibility and in the realm of the rules here.
So just a week ago, before the reports started coming out about it's going to be at least a year, or the NFL is going to push for at least a 1-year suspension, I thought that nothing would shock me about this because of the uncertainty with all of it. Like, you could say it's a 3-game suspension or a season and a half, and I feel like nothing would really surprise me because the NFL's sort of inconsistency throughout this case. Now that there's so many people reporting about the NFL pushing for a long suspension, I'm now going to be shocked if it's not a season.
Now it sounds like indefinite, but with that being a year where he has to ask back in after, and we've seen some of those are not ringing a bell off the top of my head. Pac-Man Jones might have had to ask back in after his year.
And who's the receiver for the Browns that went to Baylor?
Had
the drug issues.
Josh Gordon.
Josh Gordon, thank you.
So
who's been multiple times.
There's an example of having to meet with the commissioner, so it's not uncommon. And the indefinite suspension just allows the NFL to say that they've put him on the shelf for an uncertain amount of time until they figure out how things are going to play out long term with this.
Also allows you to mess with the Browns on the back end.
Could have done this last year.
Also
could have done this last year.
Yeah. Also allows you to mess with the Browns on the back end in terms of not knowing if and when he gets reactivated in terms of their quarterback situation for 2023. I came in saying, and it turns out that Baker Mayfield spoke today. We've talked a lot about where Baker Mayfield is better than the starter without saying the obvious. He is better than Jacoby Brissett, who's going to be the starter in Cleveland. Cleveland has a good roster. And with give them the best quarterback they could have, they could contend in that division. I don't think they're going to do anything with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback except hand off to Chubb and try to play defense. But I think if Baker Mayfield healthy, if they somehow could repair that, they're going to pay the $18 million or close to it, even with a deal. They'd pay 15, they'd pay 14, they'd pay 13, dealing him. I'm starting to think, and Baker, you've got the quote probably in front of you, Chad. They should do what they have to do to make up there and go back at it with Baker Mayfield.
This is per Soonerscoop.com. This is at Baker Mayfield's youth football camp in Oklahoma. Was asked about the likelihood he would return to the Browns. He said, "Nah, I think for that to happen, there would have to be some reaching out. But we're ready to move on, I think, on both sides." He later clarified the reaching out would need to come from the Browns. I don't think he's going to be back with the Browns. I don't know that this is a groundbreaking quote. It's also way less definitive than I would have expected from Baker Mayfield.
He left room
to say it would take some reaching out. I don't think I'm really reading between the lines to take that quote and think the Browns probably could retain him if they got on their hands and knees and begged Baker Mayfield to come back for one season, that the door's not completely shut.
Well, contractually, they could kind of force it.
Yeah, but I mean, if you wanted to have success,
if
you really
have to
you don't just force it, you'd have to say, look, man, we get where you're coming from. This was not handled the right way. but we need you.
But they could also, something like that, and then say, hey, you need us, we need you. Let's go win this year. Division's wide open. Let's go do it.
The only way Baker Mayfield should return to the Browns is on a contract extension, period. And they're not going to do that.
Well, why would he? I mean.
But let me explain this from an injury perspective. He just played through the shoulder injury that has marked him and downgraded him amongst other teams, and as far as trade value is concerned. From week 2 until the end of the regular season, when it was official they were out of the playoffs, it was going to the final week of the season when they finally put him on injured reserve. He did all of that, and the Browns went out and signed Deshaun Watson to the first fully guaranteed contract in NFL history for a quarterback. Knowing that he's already put it all on the line, trying to earn the contract extension, there is no way he should come back on the 1-year contract that he has and play in Cleveland.
Does he just fake an injury?
He could do that. He can mention that something's banged up with his shoulder. Or, the Browns have already been the ones that have parted ways. They parted ways with him whenever they signed Deshaun Watson.
So he's not getting an
He's
extension,
also
maybe.
saying in this quote, if we're reading between the lines, that they've had little to zero communication throughout this entire offseason as an organization and player. And, oh, by the way, there are players in the locker room who don't like the guy.
Well, he's not getting an extension in Cleveland. He's not getting an extension wherever he gets traded. His contract is not coming to a head until next spring.
Well, you say he's not getting an extension. I haven't heard that. If a team's trading for him and they're only going to just play it out this year with him.
I don't understand why you would extend it. Everybody's waiting to see what he does next. If you're trading for him right now and the Browns are going to pay a good share of that 18, why would you extend it?
Well, the idea is they may not end up trading him. They may end up cutting him. And in that case, he's a free agent to sign anywhere he wants to.
Right.
He's not going to sign for a 1-year contract.
He's not going to get offered a 2-year contract. I mean, he might get offered a 2-year contract that's paper, but nobody's signing him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, I don't know who would do that. The best thing to me that could happen for his
got no
career is that he gets dealt, goes somewhere, plays great for a year,
and
signs a long
contract.
extension. I just don't know. I mean, it's possible because anything's possible. I mean, a guaranteed contract for Deshaun Watson obviously is possible in the NFL, but who's going to trade for Baker Mayfield right now and sign him to a long-term, multi-year extension?
Well, it's not going to be a mega deal, but if I'm Baker Mayfield, that's my play.
Well, I know what you want, but I don't think you're getting it.
Well, I mean, we didn't think Terry McLaurin was going to get a contract extension. He just got one in Washington. Mega contract for Terry McLaurin with the Washington Commanders. For all who said, oh, leverage is over, you're not going to be able to get a deal after year 3 with the same team. They're going to trade you or they're going to go and replace you. That's happened there.
But
Deebo Samuel's playing ball with San Francisco in a long-term contract.
But their production hasn't dipped. Their production isn't in question. Unfortunately, his shoulder's a part of it. But before his shoulder, Baker Mayfield was no lie.
Let's rewind. Why in the hell, if you're Baker Mayfield, do you return to the Cleveland Browns? Answer that question.
To play.
Not to play. No, you just played through a shoulder injury all of last year, and they turned around and gave a fully guaranteed contract. Not to the guy they drafted 4 years ago, but to the guy who has 22 at the time civil cases against him, and gave it fully guaranteed and front-loaded it so that he gets the guaranteed money up front to signing bonus, and then a $1 million base salary in case he's suspended for a handful of games in the first part of the season.
I agree, and I'd be bitter about all that. But right now, I want to find the best place to go play. And the best place to go play might turn out to be Cleveland. Seattle has not indicated one time it wants Baker Mayfield. Carolina can't come to an agreement here and ultimately wants another guy to play this year. In Cleveland, you'd be the best quarterback on the roster this year.
For a team that doesn't want you.
But why is Baker Mayfield just not saying what Deshaun Watson said all of last year? He told David Coley. We heard from David Coley yesterday about it. Absolutely not playing for the Houston Texans this season. It's Baker Mayfield that's slightly leaving the door ajar. I figured the answer would be, no, I'm not playing for the Browns. They traded a quarterback for a quarterback without my knowledge, not wanting me back. So the hope is I'm somewhere else.
I get your contract thing, I do, and you're consistent on that. But I think you underrate I got to play. I got to go somewhere and play and show off what I can do to earn the money.
He's going to play in Seattle or San Francisco just name another team that needs a quarterback right now. He's going to Carolina. He's going to play in one of these cities. It's not going to be in Cleveland.
No, I don't think so either. But I don't think it would be dumb of Cleveland to try to repair things.
It would be.
He's better than Jacoby Brissett.
The only way you do this if you're Cleveland is if you void the contract of Deshaun Watson. Why would you bring back Mayfield in a year where Watson is suspended indefinitely? Keep this in mind. It's not a year. This is under the pretense that it's indefinite. Indefinite can mean 6 weeks. Indefinite can mean 12.
Indefinite definitely means a year.
But what they've done is they've set themselves up to where they don't have the guy that they addressed with the first overall pick in Baker Mayfield. They don't believe in him. It's not like they have a new head coach and came in with a new regime. It's the coach that has been behind the scenes with him that said, "Yeah, we're moving on." It's the general manager that said, "We're moving on." They've been done with Baker Mayfield before they even signed Deshaun Watson.
But it might turn out to be a mistake.
For Jacoby Brissett.
If they're going to go quarterback shopping now, who are their options? Garoppolo, and you're going to give up more to go get Garoppolo after you traded the bank, traded the whole house for
It doesn't
Watson.
necessarily have to be Garoppolo. It can be Jacoby Brissett and a player to be named in a trade that's, backup quality. It can be Sam Darnold.
All I'm saying is...
It can be Joshua Dobbs, who's there right now as the backup.
Right. Well, all I'm saying is those guys are worse than Baker Mayfield.
And they made the decision that they were better off without Baker Mayfield going with Deshaun Watson, knowing that he could be suspended, and knowing that Jacoby Brissett would start the season. But either way, they knew that they were going to be without. They didn't know this for sure because the Texans never knew either, for that matter. But they knew he was going to be suspended for some part of the season.
Yes,
did they not?
Absolutely. That's why they signed
Brissett. And they
Brissett.
chose to go and get Jacoby Brissett to fill that void.
But Brissett for 4 games as opposed to Brissett for a season is what they're looking at now. That's all I'm saying. Brissett for a season, they're not going to play.
And they've seen Baker Mayfield for 3 seasons and said, we've seen enough.
It's completely,
That's my point.
It's completely implausible, and it definitely won't happen. But here's the deal. I realize what I'm saying when I say take money out of it. Take the money piece out of this.
Just look at the quarterback.
We're talking about professional sports. The best thing for the Cleveland Browns this season, if Deshaun Watson can't play, is Baker Mayfield. The best option for Baker Mayfield continuing his career and taking a giant leap forward and springboarding that to another team and getting a big contract is playing with the Browns. Now, I say all that to also say, not going to happen because Cleveland moved on from him. Not going to happen because Baker Mayfield seems to have moved on from Cleveland. I also still, to this day, do not completely understand why some other quarterback-needy teams have not been more in the game for Baker Mayfield. Not a great ringing endorsement with talk around the league about Baker Mayfield.
And maybe they're just
the fact
doing
that
the
the market
play.
has not been hotter for him.
And maybe they're just doing the long play because they know Cleveland ultimately is going to have to get rid of him. And you know what? Paying 14 is better than paying 18.
We also don't know what Cleveland's trying to get in return because we've heard that someone mentioned that Sam Darnold could be in a swap now that Garoppolo could be in a swap. It doesn't. The team that's trading, they want to unload one of their quarterbacks too, and the Browns are already committing $58 million this year
to
quarterbacks, and one of them they're about to trade away. So why would you bring on even more to what Cleveland's doing? I think most teams, Chad, expect the Browns to cut him because they're going to be left with no alternative as training camp rolls around. And you're not going to trade for a contract that you inherit. You'd rather just negotiate your own. And that's why I think you get a multi-year deal out of it. Because there will be multiple teams that will try to sign him on the open market. And in the same way the Browns ended up with Deshaun Watson, there will be a team that comes over and says, we're going to give you this, and we'd like you to be around for longer than a season. Especially if you're a team, especially if you're signing a guy in July or August. Why would you invest a year with that guy? You would want him long-term, longer than a season, to be able to come in and know the organization. Otherwise, why bother signing him?
I think he'd prefer a 1-year deal at that point. Go out, prove it, and get yourself on the
market.
I
think Seattle makes too much sense.
But by missing out on all of this offseason, he has missed. I mean, he is really behind the 8 ball joining a new team.
But you could be in worse situations than being there the first day of camp. Ideally, you'd get a couple weeks to learn to read and study the playbook before you get to camp. You don't want to arrive the first day of camp.
So there are three options or outcomes, I guess we should say, for the hearing for Watson that's taking place with the NFL disciplinary officer, which is her name is Sue Robinson. She's a former attorney and a federal attorney, I believe, federal judge, and she is hearing from Watson both today and could last until tomorrow. But so what could come of this is no suspension, a suspension which would be appealed. But the other alternative, which has been out there, is the NFL and the NFLPA could reach a settlement before this hearing is even over on what the discipline will end up being. And at that point, there is no appeal, and it's immediate, and in effect, whatever suspension would take place at that point. Now, that's very unlikely given the fact that the NFLPA has already said that they anticipate the NFL trying to hand down an unprecedented suspension, and they were going to prepare an appeal that was coming through Florio, 10 days ago? So I doubt they negotiate this in any straight terms. Paul, I think what you said with the indefinite suspension, we brought this up yesterday. I mean, that's the language that they'll use. And, I mean, how do you appeal an indefinite suspension?
What would Deshaun Watson's camp?
Well, you appeal it and say,
NFLPA,
I want a number on it.
Well, what would be sufficient to them to not appeal at all if they just got something right now? I'll give you the mark for me.
Anything.
8 games. If the league came in and said, we will agree upon 8 games with no appeal.
Then the NFLPA would likely agree to that.
That's what I'm saying.
What
is the barometer, though, for no appeal? To me, it's half a season.
But if they just came out and said 8 games, they'd appeal it.
Yeah, if they didn't negotiate the suspension, the PA is always going to appeal
I'm saying if you were to negotiate the
negotiation period's over, though.
No, that can still go on.
Saying
they can announce the negotiation between the NFL and the NFLPA. Chad's right. If they come to it, they could reach a settlement on this if they wanted to.
I think anything above that would be appealed, and there'd be no agreement. If you were going to come to a settlement on the suspension, to me, the number, the line of demarcation to not appeal and to come to that settlement would be half a season.
I would agree with that.
I think anything above that, they're appealed.
If I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm taking that. If I'm the Browns, I'm taking that.
The timing of the settlement is very intriguing. And, why all of a sudden do you settle all but 4 cases right as you're getting up to the line of the suspension being announced?
To me, it's all or none, right? I mean, if you did all of them, that really changes things. Well, but with 4 still hanging out there.
It's not all up to Deshaun Watson.
No, I know.
So the NFL can't control the 4 women that didn't sign.
I'm saying if Deshaun Watson could have gotten it all done, that changes the landscape entirely.
If he could have gotten it all done, he'd be a Miami Dolphin right now.
Right. But now he took another swing and couldn't get it all done. So I don't know how much it changes things that you settled, but you didn't settle everything. Because
he settled but didn't settle everything last year, but then didn't settle the ones that agreed. Yeah. But he did it now. And is that because the NFLPA wanted that done so they could then negotiate and come to some agreement with the NFL on what the suspension is going to be and come to terms on that in a joint announcement? I have no idea. But the timing of that's not lost on me because that was, 9 days now to when we're expecting this to be a news dump around July 4th.
It's certainly better to have that much less hanging over your head in all ways, shapes, and forms. But there's certainly more. The league and the disciplinarian, Robertson, certainly more concerned about the 4 than the 20 or the 22.
But based on what's been reported, the league could reach a settlement with the PA on a suspension before the hearing's even over, before they even hear from Sue Robinson. And whatever they agree on, no matter what she comes back with, would be the suspension.
Yeah, so it's just like a trial, right? I mean, as long as they're deliberating, you can still be in that, right?
And correct me if I'm wrong, both representatives from the league and the PA are present at this hearing, just like Watson is present, because this is the hearing where it was reported that the NFL wanted to present its case in front of Sue Robinson for at least a full year suspension, full season. She doesn't have to hear them. She can choose to do so if she wants to, but this is that day as well, this hearing. So that hasn't been reported one way or the other on if she's going to hear them out or not. But if they're both there, you could theoretically negotiate something, which brings up, why not earlier? What's taking so long? Hit us up on Twitter with your thoughts at OutKick 360. We've got John McClain coming up on this, and if news breaks throughout our show, we will certainly hand it down. Terry McLaurin getting the new big money deal. We'll tell you the details of that contract of one of the young receivers who wanted the extension, wanted to be either extended, traded, or long-term wanted to be one of the answers and solutions for his team. Washington chose to keep him, and we'll tell you for how much, at what price. Plus, we'll get into college football promotion and relegation. Withrow with the column right now at OutKick.com. How would relegation and promotion change college football? Think of the relegation and promotion from EPL.
It would change it big time.
And we'll discuss in depth what college football could look like. Because, spoiler alert, we already know 2 to 3 teams in the college football playoff before you, as Chad wrote, before you even buy the $9.99 magazine previewing the upcoming season. Again, on Twitter at OutKick360. We are excited to partner with Aurora Nutriscience. VitaLifeScience.com keeps us mentally sharp and healthy. VIDALifescience.com is where you can see more information on some great supplements, vitamin C, vitamin D3, glutathione, and so much more. They receive, OutKick 360 holders receive a 15% off discount when you use the code OutKick360 at VitaLifeScience.com. Typical pills and capsules for your supplements, they are not well absorbed in the body, just wasted. Most are only absorbed in small, very small amounts. Your digestive system breaks these pills down until there's little left for you to benefit from. But here's Aurora, unique, cutting-edge, nutritional, and absorbable supplements encapsulated in liposomes that ensure greater absorption in the body's bloodstream. VitaLifeScience.com for more information. 15% off with the code OutKick360 at VIDALifescience.com. Well, further details with Deshaun Watson and the NFL hearing coming up with John McClain. We'll also ask him about Terry McLaurin getting a 3-year extension onto his current contract worth $53 million in guarantees. For comparison's sake, A.J. Brown had $57 million in guaranteed money. Terry McLaurin sits out mandatory minicamp, gets a 3-year extension. $71 million is what's going to be on Twitter and reported at the bottom line of whatever sports show you're watching. 53 of that fully guaranteed. We'll
have to see ultimately how it pans out, but it's nice how it wrinkles. Like A.J. Brown got 23.2 in signing bonus. McLaurin gets 28, so a small victory there. But as far as we know right now, average salary, A.J. Brown 25 and McLaurin 23.3, so he slots correctly. I think we would all agree in that regard.
Yep.
And it's short.
It's not Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams, but Terry McLaurin has averaged 1,000 yards per season each of the last 3 years with 8 quarterbacks playing for the Washington Commanders.
And he's going to get another bite at the apple in his prime. This only holds him through 2025. So
yeah, I mean, AJ will too. AJ's contract is really, if you look at it, a 2-year deal where they can get out of it after year 2, and he could be back on the market again, hypothetically, based on the base salary for the next 2 years. Chad, speaking of hypotheticals.
Even as a 5-year deal, he'd be on the market again at
before he's
8.
30.
Yeah.
Before he's 30, which is key. The hypothetical of promotion and relegation for college football with the idea that you take the Power 5 conferences and you pair each one with a group of 5 conference. And in theory, you would have a similar setup to that of like the EPL, where you take the top 2 from the group of 5 and replace the top 2 from that conference that's paired with, say, the SEC, with the bottom 2 teams of the SEC every year. And that's based on results. You could have a playoff for this. I mean, there would be a lot of scratching and clawing to get to the upper echelon, which is that Power 5 group.
Well, we had this discussion last week. You brought it up about Auburn, Tennessee, Florida needing to step up and have more meaningful games. And it just got me thinking, well, what if those programs, it's impossible to step up because the elite of the elite aren't going anywhere, and those teams aren't going to catch up to them anytime soon? Because we already know going into this season, Alabama and Georgia are probably going to be right there, either in the playoff or deciding the team that wins the national championship. Ohio State is going to be right there among those teams. We can go down the list. Clemson regularly. It's going to be one of those teams out of the ACC. So how do we take what is not intriguing at the very top of college football, which is a problem in the sport right now, and add a layer of intrigue in the middle of the sport? Well, how about if Tennessee, Auburn, and Florida are playing games in November to decide their SEC livelihood? That would be interesting. That'd be entertaining to watch. Suddenly, November 20th, Florida and Missouri is not just a battle for Dan Mullen's job. It is a battle to not go to the Sun Belt if you're one of those teams, because that would have been for second to last. So my plan is pretty simple. In the EPL, they take the bottom 3 teams out of 20, and those 3 teams go to the championship league. I think it's called the championship, the league
second
before.
Tier.
So the top 2 teams automatically go up, and then there's a 4-team playoff for that 3rd spot. So,
which is unbelievably huge.
I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. This is fun. It's a hypothetical. This will never happen because those who have money and power will never relinquish it. So the top conferences would never agree to this. But I'm looking at a way to make things more interesting across the sport and not just leave those 5 non-Power 5 conferences completely behind to themselves. So I think the most likely scenario would be 1-1, right? The bottom team goes, the top team comes up. Relegation, promotion. What I did, though, was to add even more games of intrigue. You take the bottom 2 teams from each power conference, they automatically move down, and the top team from the lower conference automatically moves up, and there's a 1-game playoff, Team 2 versus Team 3, to decide the second promotion spot to move up. It does work out nicely, guys, that there are exactly 10 conferences in the football bowl subdivision, so you can neatly pair partner conferences. SEC with the Sun Belt, ACC with the AAC, Big 10 MAC, Big 12 Conference USA, Pac-12 Mountain West. So as I dive into this, there are some interesting takeaways. All right, I'll start with the SEC. If you go by last year's standings in the SEC and in the Sun Belt, Vanderbilt and Florida go to the Sun Belt for 2022. Vanderbilt was winless in the SEC. Florida went 2-6 a year ago. Again, that Florida-Missouri game suddenly takes on a different complexion because that's fighting for your life in the conference. Florida is going to have no problem finishing the top 2 of the Sun Belt, really any year. They're going to probably win the Sun Belt or finish right there and get back to the SEC. Vanderbilt, and I've got a couple other examples, it's no given that they get out of the Sun Belt quickly. Now, that might sound crazy to some, but Clark Lee, who we really like, I think he's got a specific plan for building the Vanderbilt program up. If you suddenly threw in a relegation scenario to Vanderbilt, makes it infinitely more difficult because they could get caught in the wash of being in the middle or finishing 3rd or 4th in the Sun Belt and not getting back up to the SEC immediately. I think in most cases, guys, the team that's relegated would immediately bounce back up the next year and finish 1st or 2nd in the lower conference. They'd have a year of a bunch of blowout wins in that conference and move up. I think the Big Ten to the MAC is a pretty good example of that. I think the Big Ten finisher is going to finish 1st or 2nd the next year in the MAC and move back up. Here's the other example that jumped out to me of a team relegated. Kansas. Kansas has a .007 winning percentage in the Big 12 since Mark Mangino was their coach. In 2009 was his last year. .007, 7-99 in the Big 12. They have lost to multiple FCS teams over that time. If Kansas was suddenly in Conference USA, do we really think they're going to immediately finish 1st or 2nd in that conference and get right back to the Big 12? I think it could be more challenging than some think. So ultimately, and here's to me the most competitive situation, Pac-12 Mountain West. I'm going to roll through these programs. Boise State, San Diego State, Air Force, Utah State, Fresno State, Nevada, all of those programs could compete in the middle tier of the Pac-12 right now. So if they get promoted, there are some programs there that could stick around.
Look, I love it. I understand it's hypothetical. I'm a big EPL fan. Fact of the matter in the EPL is, unless something crazy happens, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, and Manchester United, 6 teams, the big 6, are finishing in some order in the top 6. Yet, England and the world love this league. Yet, it's a scramble of those 6 teams.
By the way, which is
intriguing.
The same in college football right now,
right
at the top.
But it's the most popular thing going. So you go to the bottom. I was flying, I think, to Las Vegas, fellas, when I went for my weekend trip with my buddy. And on the plane, on USA Network, I watched Everton, second to last game of the season. Everton has not been relegated since 1951, one of the classic clubs. And they were playing for their lives at home. They wound up in 16th place. 18th is out. They were playing for their lives. They were down 2-0 at halftime. In their history in Premier League games, they have never won a game where they were down 2-0 at halftime. They won 3-2. And the celebration at Goodison Park, where they play, you would have thought this was Champions League winning, World Cup winning. It was as big as anything I've seen in the EPL. These people celebrating staying up in the league. So you take that to college football. My God, we've stayed in the SEC from winning this game. You're talking about the Missouri-Vanderbilt game or whatever it is at the end of the season. A game that means absolutely nothing.
In November.
That is a
where you're playing out the string for most of these
November.
teams.
And you take that game and you give it the meaning of staying in the conference as opposed to going down. It changes the whole landscape of the sport. It would be phenomenal.
It adds so many interesting games there this season with real stakes, not just boy, I don't want to suffer the embarrassment of losing to my rival who's terrible this year.
Real stakes.
There's real stakes
financial
of that.
stakes.
But not just
and
those.
here's the other thing, the talent, right? So these teams that go down, Burley, Watford, Norwich City, they might have good players. Those players don't stay on that team next year. Because if they're good, they're going to get Premier League offers and be bought. So your guys who go down with Kansas, the best guy on Kansas immediately is going to the transfer portal to get back into the big conference.
Well, it creates
a whole nother level of intrigue.
That and the money. I mean, think of what Georgia State, if they beat Appalachian State, would be in the SEC for a year. They get a SEC football TV check for that year, as long as they're in there. It's probably 1 year, and then they're back down.
They get Gates.
But Vanderbilt, Duke, 3 programs come to mind that would have a hard time getting back up. Vanderbilt, Duke, Kansas, if they get relegated. How long do they stay in the wash of taking small checks from those conferences, and when does it ultimately truly affect them?
Yeah.
And their bottom line. And if
you're
a program
in Europe, they'd go down another level.
And if you're a program like Cincinnati, which I understand they're about to move to the Big 12, this would be a 1-year thing, but just with my hypothetical, Cincinnati wins the AAC to go to the ACC. Cincinnati ain't leaving the ACC anytime soon. That is true promotion that is taking place. They're probably hanging out there. And I'll go down the list, even with Cincinnati, Houston, because, by the way, it would be Cincinnati, then a 1-game playoff, Houston versus UCF to move up.
And those games would get incredible ratings, games that we don't care about.
Exactly. Georgia State, Appalachian State for a spot in the SEC. I'm watching that. Houston, UCF for a spot in the ACC. I'm watching that. Kent State versus Central Michigan to move into the Big 10. Probably watching that too. Western Kentucky, UAB to go to the Big 12, and San Diego State, Fresno State to move up to the Pac-12. That would be the hypothetical 1-game playoff for the second promotion spot to those conferences.
Here's the downside.
Look, this is a meritocracy that I'm talking about here. And because I'm talking about that, I realize it'll never happen.
Here's a downside.
Because as much as I love college football, they're not interested in meritocracy. They're interested in money and what's going to generate the most money. And those teams and those schools and those conferences would never, ever agree to this.
Who's coming into the SEC in this scenario from last year? Georgia State?
It would be the champion of the Sun Belt, which is Louisiana.
All right.
UL Lafayette, who finished unbeaten in their conference, and probably Appalachian State.
All right. So how are those two then scheduled the next season?
Well,
are they in a pod?
No.
Are they in a?
I mean, you'd have to do like the NFL,
right,
and go back to not scheduling games out so far in advance with your non-conference and everything else. But I mean, they play an SEC. They play an SEC schedule. You either, if it's divisional, you split the two and put one in the West, one in the East, and they play that schedule. Or it's if they go to the 9-game conference season, you split it up just that way.
We'll see.
But if it's a 9-game where you have two traditional opponents, somebody's getting a bonus.
Well, this works a lot better
if
there's
teams.
One super conference, and then you're working your way in there. Because what the group of 5 don't want you to know is there's as much parity in the group of 5 at the top of these conferences for football as there is in the Power 5. Take a look at the Conference USA and tell me who wins that conference. Take a look at the MAC, and chances are it's Central Michigan, Northern Illinois, or Toledo. And then once this happens 1 year in, every year we're probably discussing for the right to fall back into the conference one of the teams that's just moved up.
Yeah.
So it becomes very cyclical based on that. Also, if you don't believe in the parity of the group of 5, give one $53 million check to UAB and tell me what happens compared to a $300,000 TV contract in that conference.
Program changing.
Then you're going to fall back, and they're going to be right back in based on this scenario.
But also take away the check from Vanderbilt one time and see what happens there, because that's their entire athletic budget.
But
they
again,
don't do anything else.
I would contend we're talking every year about whoever's up and whoever's down. Is Toledo or Northern Illinois going to be the team that moves up and down now?
It's going to be
the same stuff.
It's going to
be
musical chairs.
And there'd be
the teams that are left or the teams that are relegated are going to be the ones probably getting back in, and those 2 that were added. So it's a shifting musical chair situation. Now, here's the downside of it.
Might be a breakthrough once in a while.
Well, this is why I said, it's a trigger warning for fans of schools that I listed that would have been relegated last year. Now imagine Florida playing a Sun Belt schedule for a season.
Right.
That's not going to get Florida fans excited other than you're going to go 11-1 or 12-0 and win that conference. I mean, Anthony Richardson is going to steamroll the Sun Belt, right? I mean, they're getting right back up. Vandy, not so much. Vandy lost to ETSU a year ago and should have lost to UConn, who was the worst team in FBS, at home. They may finish middle of the pack in the Sun Belt in year 2 with Clark Lee, right? But a team like Florida in a program, they get immediately back in. And I mean, if you want to look at it like, well, that was a weird season, where we're playing all these teams we normally wouldn't play, you're going to win a lot of games. So the money element of it would fascinate me. The different level of competition would be interesting. I know this would never happen, but it's fun to imagine a world
idea
where this would be real and we're actually talking about so many other games that, for instance, I'm not necessarily watching the Conference USA Championship game and following along, but I would watch that playoff game to decide a spot in the Big 12 because of what's on the line for the next season.
It's a fun idea by you.
Thank you.
You can read more at OutKick.com. Coming up, we discuss Amazon, who continues to hire more names, more player and recognizable figures in the sport of football to their Thursday Night Football broadcast. We'll tell you who's been added to the broadcast team next on OutKick 360. John McClain coming up in 10 minutes. OutKick 360 rolls on. Andrew Whitworth and Aqib Talib have joined the Amazon Thursday Night Football broadcast. So you will have Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on the actual game broadcast, the play-by-play and color commentary. Tony Gonzalez, Richard Sherman, and Ryan Fitzpatrick at the desk. And then they will have Whitworth and Talib doing things either outside of the studio or off the desk in studio to provide other commentary.
I mean, Whitworth is one of those guys I don't have many questions about coming right off the field. And Talib got spectacular reviews. I only heard him do one or two games. I didn't think he was as good as everybody else thought, but I thought he was good.
Well, his podcast is fantastic.
This is a terrific cast of characters, though. I still think they should have gotten them together before, but I mean, that's a great cast of characters, and it's almost overstocked now. Carissa Thompson there also.
Yes.
So Talib and Whitworth, will they not be on site at the game?
That
with the other guys in studio?
They might be on set at game while the other guys are on a set. I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is there going to be
or they're two sets?
They haven't said exactly what their roles are going to be. They just said they're not going to be in the studio on set on the desk. That they would be doing
so they might be
pregame interviews. They're going to send them out during the week to do a pregame interview with somebody.
I could see
them. Might be Rodney
facility.
Harrison on the field.
Yeah, Rodney Harrison and
too,
Jack Collinsworth
introducing their features.
Or I'm also seeing like Steve Young and the crew on Monday Night Football, always on the sideline with Randy Moss before a game. They're going to have someone there to go to from a studio.
Well, let's hope they
pregame.
do some mold breaking and don't fit into these neat compartments I don't know what that mold breaking is, but I'd like for them to try.
I mean, traditional broadcast also works. Look at the ratings.
Yeah, there's no I don't know that there's uncovered territory, though. Like, I think that you do it a certain way because that's the way you do it, and there's not a lot of room around that.
Well, the pre- and post-game, I think there's
It's
room
also
to try
what the NFL
stuff.
will give you, right, from an access standpoint. But I see...
That's a lot of talent.
Also,
yeah,
it's interchangeable talent in that I don't care who's on the field or who's back in the studio. I think all of them could work in either forum, right? And I think you could move guys around, and they would be. You could have one week where half the crew that was there the week before is back in studio talking. Someone else goes on site, and vice versa, and mix and match, and it could still work.
Well, here's the thing: you've also only got one double, right? You've got a tight end, you've got a quarterback, you've got an offensive lineman, and you have two corners in Sherman and Talib. I like the different perspectives from different positions.
Well, those guys are going to give you their honest perspective regardless of position, Sherman and Talib. Talib's interview, if you haven't listened, Catching Fades is the name of his podcast. And if you go listen to his podcast and the interviews that he conducts, it's very laid back, and they get into all kinds of stuff from a decade ago with certain guests. We had some guest on from the Steelers. I can't remember who it was last fall. And one of the things in some prep, I went back and listened to his interview that Talib did with this guy, Ike Taylor. It was exceptional. Like I did not know Aqib Talib could pull off a podcast that well.
What I'm saying though is
30,000-foot view going in.
The corners can talk both coverage and wide receiver play. The quarterback obviously brings you that. Gonzalez can talk about tight ends and linebackers in a different way, and Whitworth can talk line play. So you're well covered when you want to narrow. They can all talk everything, obviously, but when you want to narrow down to a specific play and say, look at this, what was going on, you've got one guy or two at the corners that can really hyper-focus on the specifics of technique or the thinking of a certain issue.
Still waiting on that punter to be added to the crew.
Yeah, well,
Pat McAfee was the golden god of broadcasting punters. Still is. Yep. So he's around.
Jay Feely's on that one crew and doesn't do a lot for me.
He's been mentioned for some NFL stuff
just
to go on the road. But yeah, he's got a lot on his plate right now. He said maybe down the road, but right now it doesn't fit into the schedule. More power to you, Pat. Keep up the great work. He'll be in Nashville soon for SummerSlam. We'll have to have him in studio. We'll have John McClain on the show next, talking NFL headlines, Deshaun Watson, and more. Second hour, OutKick 360 across the OutKick network from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. We're glad you're with us on the Tuesday edition. Deshaun Watson and the NFL disciplinary decision maker, Sue Robinson is her name. There's a hearing going on today for Deshaun Watson. We're going to get into that. We will get into Terry McLaurin's new contract and much more. Daniel Snyder refusing the delivery of the subpoena. There's a lot of topics to get into over the course of the next 35 minutes or so with John McClain, who joins us each and every week at this time on the show. John, hope you're doing well.
I am, guys. Thank you. I hope you are too.
Absolutely. Let's start with our in-studio guest yesterday. David Culley stopped by and discussed the past year or so in Houston, what he's up to now. Says if he coaches again, and based on his reaction, he wants to coach again. It will be in the NFL. You got to know him very well whenever he was the head coach of the Texans for that season. What do you think of the guy, and what did you think of how things ended earlier this year in Houston?
David Culley's one of the classiest men I've ever met, whether it's in football or outside of football. David was thrust into a no-win situation last year with a terrible roster, just a terrible team. And not only did he win 4 games, the Titans had to go to the 3-point victory to secure home field advantage. He lost to the Patriots by 3, lost a 1-score game at Miami, and he did it with a rookie quarterback playing most of the season in Davis Mills. And I thought that Culley deserved another season to prove himself. And I know he was really disappointed at being fired because he admitted he learned a lot being a head coach for the first time, and he was excited about what he learned and applying that to the next season. Then they pulled the rug out from under him. We're planning to hire Josh McCown until they came to their senses and elevated Lovie Smith. I know David loves Sparta and he loves Tennessee. I did a huge Father's Day story on him last year about he and his late dad. And I know he and everybody in Sparta are big fans of this show because David's told me that numerous times. And I just think the world of the man, and I'm glad he was up there. I know he loves it up there. He had offers immediately to return to coaching as an assistant coach. I think his wife wants him to retire. I wouldn't surprise me at all if David doesn't come back next season.
I know there's a degree of rehash here, John. He said they asked him to make changes to his coaching staff. He said no. 2 days later, he was fired. Then ultimately, they stick with his defensive coordinator, who's hired as the head coach, and his offensive coordinator, who remains in place in Pep Hamilton. So who are the coaches that they were so eager to see depart, and how important were they? Was this over position coaches, or was that just BS that it was over coaches?
Yeah, it was BS. They asked him about getting rid of coaches they knew he didn't want to get rid of. It's pretty obvious to me they had targeted Josh McCown since the year before. When Jack Easterby, the executive VP of football operations, when he was interim general manager in 2020 after Bill O'Brien got fired, he signed Josh McCown off Philadelphia's practice squad to be on the Texans practice squad. And turned out they had a relationship through ministry going way back. And I had 2 players and a coach tell me, you watch, Easterby's going to find a way to get McCown hired. And I thought that was preposterous and told him so. And he actually got an interview, and he hadn't been anywhere over high school coaching, even though everybody thinks McCown's going to make a really good coach, but he needs to start at the bottom. And then as soon as Culley was fired, all of a sudden he became the front runner. And if Brian Flores hadn't filed that lawsuit that caused the Texans to take a step back and reevaluate the situation, because they were getting blasted locally, nationally, for going to hire a head coach with no experience above high school. And they came to their senses and hired Lovie Smith. And it has calmed the waters considerably since. But there was a tumultuous time, lots of turmoil. And I felt bad for Cully because he is a really good guy. He had a lot of respect among most of the players. And I hope he lands on his feet. But I think it was inevitable. He walked away with a lot of money. But looking back, and they won't admit they were about to hire McCown, but they were. And I think it was planned all along.
John, the anticipation is that Watson will be suspended indefinitely. That would mean, I guess, for the full season, although there are instances where a player has received an indefinite suspension and it did not mean a full NFL season. What do you make of what's to come here as we know the hearing is taking place today?
There seems to be a lot of confusion on exactly what the process is. Lisa Frill, who heads up the investigation, she and her staff are the ones that investigated it, taking a long time to reach this point. And it's turned over to Sue Robinson, a retired judge that the NFL and NFLPA agreed on. And if she says no suspension, then there's no suspension. She's not going to do that. She's going to hand down a suspension. And then the appeal would go to Roger Goodell or someone he appoints. And even if he appoints someone, they know what Goodell wants. And the reason it's indefinite is because they're worried about more lawsuits. What if they give him a suspension or 6, 10, or a season, then all of a sudden there are a bunch more lawsuits and more investigation, possible criminal complaints police have to investigate. So I think that's why they want to leave it open-ended. And I never bought the rationale of the NFLPA led by Jeffrey Kessler, an attorney who's been a thorn in their side for a long time, that the lack of punishment for owners like Robert Kraft, Snyder, and others, they say Jerry Jones, that doesn't have anything to do with Deshaun Watson. Watson has an unprecedented situation in not just the NFL, but the history of professional sports, with so many women accusing him of sexual misconduct, assault, and harassment. And that's why the penalty, I don't think it'll be like Trevor Bauer baseball with 2, but I could see it being 1, and I could see it being open-ended until they're sure that there's not going to be more lawsuits filed against him and possible criminal investigations.
John, are you surprised that Baker Mayfield didn't just come out and say, no, I'm not playing for the Cleveland Browns when asked about it, instead saying, well, they'd have to reach out on their end, but no, we're moving on?
Yeah, it was kind of wishy-washy, Chad, it's like he left the door open even though he doesn't want to do it. He knows they don't want to do it. The Texans sure hope he doesn't do it because they want Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback of the Browns because they think they got a better chance of getting a higher draft choice than if Watson were there or Mayfield. Mayfield had 2 good years. 2 years ago, he was healthy. They reached the divisional round of the playoffs, beat Pittsburgh, their arch rival, and things were hunky-dory going into last season. And he got hurt in the second game against the Texans. And so I don't see it happening. They've tried to trade him. You talk about some bad blood. They got bad blood. And if he played and he got hurt again and had to undergo another shoulder operation, then he'd be a free agent like in a situation like Garoppolo where he had an injury that prevented him from signing with another team. So I think that ship has sailed, and I think that's why they're going with Jacoby Brissett.
John, is this a cautionary tale for every quarterback in the league, or is it simply a Browns-specific cautionary tale? And what I mean by that is Baker Mayfield pushed through an injury when he probably shouldn't have and tried to gut it out and did not look good in doing so. And all that got him was pushed aside and rumors spread about him from people inside the building about how he wasn't a great teammate and people didn't like him inside the building. Is this a lesson to a quarterback from here on out that if you've got the least bit of an injury, go ahead and sit out or your team is going to bury you after the fact? Or is this just another example of the Browns' dysfunction?
I think you have to take it into consideration. And that's a great point. And not every team is like that. Not every team is going to do what the Browns have done. And a couple of players came out and defended him, but not a lot. And I think he's not a popular player there, and he never has been because of his ego and his attitude. I know he's certainly no favorite of the people who've covered that team for a long time. But the fact is, he's tough, and he played through that bum left shoulder last year, and he didn't play well, and he had to hand the ball off, threw a lot of bad passes, and that's why I'm surprised more teams have not been interested in him. I've talked numerous times to you guys and on my other shows about I don't understand why Seattle would rather have Geno Smith as a starter with all those weapons they have at running back, wide receiver, tight end, and new offensive lineman, and why they're going with Geno Smith over making a trade for Mayfield. And Mayfield has got a lot to prove, and he wants to prove it, and he's healthy, and he's playing for a big contract. If I were him, I'd do whatever I could do to get out of there, go somewhere else, play 1 year, and hope you played well enough to get a big contract.
John, what has been the reaction in Houston to the Texans being officially named in the suit from Busby saying that the team enabled Watson?
Well, that's been out there for weeks, and Busby's accused him before. During the depositions, Watson said as far as he knew, they didn't know anything about it. Busby in the lawsuit says they should have known, and if they didn't know, they should have. They knew, but if they didn't, they should have. In other words, maybe they didn't know. So he's left it open-ended, and he's doing what's best for his clients. He's trying to help them get money in a settlement from the Texans to make it go away, and that's what he should do. But down here, even though it's a constant source of conversation on talk shows and in the Houston Chronicle, most of the people don't think much about it because there's a lot. The Houstonian Resort, where I'm not a member, but I go a lot, is our nicest and fanciest, and a lot of the top athletes, general managers, owners are members there. So it made sense for Deshaun Watson to have a membership there. It's in a great location. It's convenient to everybody. And I'll guarantee you the Texans didn't know what he was doing on Instagram one-on-one with all these masseuses. And they said they kept the NFL updated on everything going back to the first time this came out. But I don't blame Busby. What does it hurt to try?
How much is Watson still a featured element of sports talk conversation there and written about? Is it still a charged, heightened subject there, or with the hand washing as it lessened?
All day, every day. On my, I do 10 weekly shows in 6 cities, 4 on the Texans flagship, and that's all we talk about. Most of the time is Watson because it's such a big story in the NFL and it's unprecedented. And I'm thinking, what's it going to be like when he finally gets suspended and he appeals it and then he disappears? And then all of a sudden, wow, there's nothing to talk about Deshaun Watson until the time comes when he could be reinstated. But it is, as soon as I walked into my show this morning, that's the first thing they asked me about. Houston Chronicle had a news story and a column today. So it's the gift that keeps on giving to talk shows and social media and websites that need clicks.
Sports Radio 610 is where you can find John in Houston. You can find him on Twitter at McClain_on_NFL. And he joins us across the OutKick Network each and every Tuesday. Coming up with John, we will get into Daniel Snyder refusing the delivery of the subpoena from the House Oversight Committee. Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers are hoping to find some resolution with his landing spot now that he's right up against the time frame for when he's going to be able to throw the football. It's going to happen very soon. The Niners are trying to figure something out with Deebo Samuel, although it may not meet Samuel's requirements. But Washington did meet Terry McLaurin's requirements. We'll get into John's take on the deal that was given to McLaurin and what it means for Deebo Samuel moving forward. All of that and more straight ahead on OutKick 360. I've often wondered how you describe someone being rich versus someone being wealthy. And I think the new definition is Daniel Snyder being able to pay everyone that works for him to just follow him to France so that you can't have the United States House of Representatives and a subcommittee deliver a subpoena for your testimony. OutKick 360 rolls on.
Because you would accidentally, like, is this a thing like in a movie where, like, you know, somebody drops, it just says, are you Daniel Snyder? Yes. And they hand you the thing. And so he's kind of walled off in a way where nobody can get close enough to him to hand him a document?
So the most recent report, John, was they have reached out to one of his attorneys. I don't know which one. Maybe he has a main attorney. And they tried to issue and deliver the subpoena through his attorney. And the attorney replied and let them know that she would also be out of town. Not out of town, out of country. And by all accounts, he's somewhere docked off the coast of France right now.
Yeah, it's somewhat outdated that you need to be handed a piece of paper.
Got to make it official. Right?
I didn't know you could decline a subpoena.
Yeah.
Like, that's
If
the report.
Congress
You have to be
Declining
served,
a
right?
subpoena.
You have to be served.
But like, I didn't know that the option was to quote. That's the headline. Daniel Snyder declined subpoena.
First of all, Paul, you're right. It is outdated. And why they still have to do it that way, it's kind of unbelievable. But if somebody walks up to hand it to you, you know, you can reach back like that, like it's on fire. And originally the Commanders said, well, they gave him one date, and the attorney didn't have time to come back into the country. And of course, it's ridiculous, and it would serve the Commanders better if Snyder stayed in Europe on his yacht the rest of the year and see how they could do without him. But at some point, he's got to come back. But it just shows when you're a multi-billionaire, you can get away with almost anything.
And he's doing it. This time last week, I was assuming this guy would be at least on some type of internet feed. Like they were offering to go over there and set that up for him to be available the same way Goodell was available. And he's not having it. So what comes of this, John? How long do they wait if this committee is going to get together and actually try to solve something?
Well, first of all, he's smart not to get in front of this committee because they could ask him a lot of uncomfortable questions that he doesn't want to answer, and he could plead the fifth. It would be a dog and pony show. I mean, those politicians, when they get up there, they made fools out of themselves. Last week, the politicians were more entertaining than Goodell, going back and forth. I thought it was pathetic for them to do the way they did it. And that's the way it would be with Snyder as well. The key with Dan Snyder, doesn't matter how many millions he gets fined. He's already been fined 10. It doesn't matter if he has to turn it over to his wife, which we know he didn't. The only way you really hurt a team, there's one way. You take away their draft choices, and you could do this, maybe you take away salary cap room. You hit them where it hurts competitively. Now, that would be punishing him, but the players, the coaches, the fans, everybody. And the NFL doesn't need all this congressional BS to determine whether or not they think he's worth being an owner, because he's not, and they should have voted to get him out. They haven't. It hadn't come to that, but it might. And if it does, it's a 3/4 majority. And remember this, he's been in there long enough to know a lot about a lot of owners they would not want leaked to the media.
John, and we've discussed this likely with you as well, the owners will vote him out if he cooked the books in some way. That's where they're going to get him. It's not going to be with this workplace environment. It's going to come down to whether or not he was skimming money off the top that would have been evenly shared across all 32 owners, not just Daniel Snyder. And that is being looked at, right?
Yeah, because the accusations of the guy who got fired, and of course Snyder and the team deny it's true. But if you start getting your hand in their wallet, you want to get them. There's only one other place you could put your hand that would hurt them more, and that's with the footballs. But if you get your hand in that wallet, they're going to investigate you more than they would have, because they don't like the idea that some owner is holding out on them, even though they got more money than Fort Knox.
John, Terry McLaurin gets the extension that he wanted, a 3-year tacked on to his current contract, and $53 million is guaranteed of the reported 70+ that he has extended and signed on for with Washington. He didn't show up to mandatory minicamp. At the same time, he did not play his cards the same way. We got some
emergency alert.
Yeah.
Blue alert.
See what's going on here. All right, let me turn my phone off first. First time this has happened.
I don't know how you make it stop.
There we go.
I don't know.
We
What is
apologize to all the.
Does anyone know what a blue
listeners
alert
there.
is, by the way? All right, someone look at that, please,
Sounds police related.
to make sure that we're okay.
It
Continue.
does work. Hopefully that's just a test, and it's not anything urgent. We'll keep everyone updated there. John, going back to Terry McLaurin, he doesn't play his cards the same way A.J. Brown did, or Deebo Samuel, which was very vocal. We didn't hear much from Terry McLaurin. We knew he wanted the extension, but he played his cards close to the vest, sits out mandatory minicamp, and ultimately he gets the extension. What do you think about what Washington gave him?
First of all, he's a great young receiver. And second of all, you can't convince me that Snyder's problems and the problems that the Commanders are having in the court of public opinion didn't have something to do with them getting that deal done, so they can have something positive come out of their headquarters. Because right now there's nothing coming out of their headquarters except negativity toward the owner. And I think that McLaurin benefited from that, and he certainly deserved the money.
Yes, and it's not ridiculous. Like when you start stacking where all the receivers are on the guaranteed money, Paul, you've got Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs.
He slots properly.
He's right behind A.J. Brown in the guaranteed money, but he's going to be available based on contract length here. I don't want to, old takes exposed to come back and say that I said that A.J. would not be a free agent before Terry McLaurin. We don't know. It's a 4-year or 5-year contract could be a 2-year deal. But based on the guaranteed money, he's slotted right behind A.J. Brown.
Average salary, he's slotted right behind A.J. Brown.
And guaranteed money.
Appropriate. Guaranteed, too?
A.J. got 57, and McLaurin, according to reports, is getting 53. So, John, if you're starting to stack these, where does Deebo Samuel fit in with those two guys, A.J. and Terry McLaurin?
Well, the problem for Deebo Samuel is he's also a running back, and they say he doesn't like being a running back. He had 300 yards rushing, I think 8 touchdowns. Really, that makes him more valuable. And you would think that he would have a better case. Now, we haven't seen anything on Samuel about what his side is asking for. Nothing. And he's not said anything publicly, I don't think, but it's been out there, very public. But he did he come to the mini camp? I can't remember.
Did, yes.
Okay, I think that was a goodwill gesture on his part. Problem is, you got Jimmy Garoppolo taking up such a big portion of that salary cap, and if they could trade him, then that would open up a lot of money. I think Samuel will get his money. The one I'm wondering about, DK Metcalf, if I'm him, I don't blame him trying to get it now because he's got Geno Smith. And if he waits another year after playing with Geno Smith and Drew Lock, all his stats may go down and say, hey, you didn't have the same stats. And he's like, no, duh, you traded Russell Wilson. So I don't blame Metcalf, but I think Samuel will get paid. Deebo will get paid, and he get paid a lot of money.
Do we think Deebo doesn't like the running back part because it'll affect his value ultimately? Because running backs aren't considered as valuable as wide receivers, because it dents his receiver stats, or because he doesn't actually like that part of the game?
I think he doesn't like the physicality of playing running back. All the hits you take at running back, you're in traffic more than you are wide receiver. And he did a great job of it. Kyle Shanahan did a tremendous job of utilizing him last season. If you were to take him out of that offense in which Trey Lance, the second-year quarterback, is going to be the starter, the quarterback you paid dearly to get, they need Samuel. He and his agent know they have got the upper hand on this situation, and I think they'll get it done before training camp, because that's when those big fines start in training camp, and they can't be rescinded.
What's going to happen with Garoppolo? Well, we know he's about to throw. Based on the time frame of the recovery from the shoulder surgery, it's either this week or next week, based on that time frame where he can pick up a football and actually let it rip. Once that happens, do you think a trade happens relatively soon, or do you think this is a similar situation to what we see with Baker Mayfield, where we think there are teams who would want them want these guys on their roster, but no one's trading for them?
I don't think he's going to be traded anytime soon. I mean, Garoppolo's not special. You saw what Julian Edelman said about him, which was terrible. He wouldn't play hurt on that podcast, and that's the worst thing you can say about a quarterback. And so I'm not so sure he doesn't need to play a little bit preseason, show people he can throw, he can take a hit, and then try to trade him before the trading deadline. When a team loses a quarterback it thinks is going to take them to the Super Bowl or the playoffs, because they're not going to get nearly what they think he's worth. And what's he worth? A 4th-round pick, maybe a conditional pick that's a 4, could be a 3 or a 2 based on how many games he plays and what his new team is able to do when it comes to victories.
I think too many people are too high on New Orleans, John, and they think that team's been patched back together, that Allen will be able to coach them. Now Kamara may be out the first 6 games. What do you think of the Saints?
Dennis Allen did a great job as a defensive coordinator, had a chance to coach the Raiders, and I think he went 4-12 both times. Now, maybe he didn't get a fair shot. We saw Mike Shanahan get fired by Al Davis and then win 2 Super Bowls with Denver, but he had John Elway. Dennis Allen's got Jameis Winston and Kamara. If he misses those 6 games everybody's predicting, that's not good. The best thing for them, it's a bad division after Tampa Bay, so they could compete for the playoffs. I thought Sean Payton did his best coaching job last season to wring 9 victories out of that roster when you're starting 3rd-string quarterbacks. I thought he just did a tremendous job. And if he was back, I could see people getting on the Saints bandwagon for a wild card berth. Right now, maybe they'll compete for one, but unless Winston plays the season and plays better than he played last year after a great opening game before he suffered the injury, they're just another 8 or 9 win team.
John, settle a bet for us. Is someone trying to start a lawnmower behind you right now? What is happening with that noise?
There's a jackhammer on the street outside my house
Hutton
where
wins.
they are totally tearing up our street.
Hutton said
They
construction.
are
If
going
that-
to
if
town on
that'd
that
been a-
street right now.
If that'd been a lawnmower and it hadn't started, I would have gone out there and started it for him.
I thought so now I think that they're digging out the hoop that you were shooting on to take it to a museum or something.
No, they're not going to touch that. That's in the back of the house. They're not touching the back of the house.
John, NFL schedule roughly is released first week of May, right? We are here right as we get to July, and the Cincinnati Bengals just now sold out of their regular season games. I'm stunned by that. Of all the years, the years they break through that glass ceiling and they have Joe Burrow back, they just went on a run to the Super Bowl after winning a playoff game for the first time in 30 years. And they're just now, confirming, we officially are sold out for the 2022 regular season. Are you as surprised by that as I am?
Well, it's not like everybody in Cincinnati is going to see the Reds because they're awful. They're awful. But I can't imagine. Maybe they jacked up the ticket prices. I didn't see that. I'm sure they did when you think about the fact that they were so much fun to watch. And that's the thing. They are fun to watch. But maybe they're a hard sale. Maybe it was because of money. But the fact is, if you got tickets to watch the Bengals at Paul Brown Stadium, they're going to be very entertaining. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl loser never goes back unless they're New England.
I'm so glad that Hutton asked this question because it reminds me of a debate I was having with a buddy over the weekend, John. What is the smallest fan base in the NFL? We all agreed Jacksonville is dead last. Who's second to last? If we all agree Jacksonville is last. Possible options, the Titans, Cincinnati. Who else am I leaving off the list here? The Panthers?
Boy, I wouldn't put the Titans in there because it's multiple states. I would put Carolina or Cincinnati. Carolina's really struggled. They had some success early. Then they went to the Super Bowl and lost, but you don't ever hear anything about them outside of the Carolinas. And they're close to Atlanta. They're close to Washington. And right now, if you go by attendance, it would be Washington because they've just been abandoned by their fans because Snyder's let the stadium go down the toilet because he's such a terrible owner and they've been losing for so long. But of course, they're one of the most storied franchises. But I think it would be Carolina or Cincinnati.
This surprised me. I just went and looked up Cincinnati's population. I wonder if you guys will be surprised as I was. 309,317. I know you're looking at something bigger than that in terms of their scope, and they extend into Kentucky and a wider swath of neighborhoods. But that is a small city. And the census gave them plus 12,000, a 4% increase, the first time it's grown over a decade since 1950.
I think among the smallest fan bases are the Los Angeles Chargers. Because if you're in L.A., you're a Rams fan.
That's a good one.
And San Diego hates them now.
That's another good one.
The Chargers are on that list, even though they're in a major market. Because the Chargers in 2019, before they even made the move, had the smallest home attendance in the NFL, just over 31,000 on average. So I don't think the Chargers fan base is all that massive.
That's top five for sure.
I think
Titans are too. They
we'll come up with a poll question on this. We all agree Jacksonville last.
Yes.
I think the 4 options The Chargers are a good one. 4 options if you're going through it. Panthers, Cincinnati, Chargers, Titans. Would be the 4 options if you're doing a poll question.
What about New Orleans? The northern part of Louisiana is Cowboy fans. Maybe in Mississippi, but then you got Falcons fans. Everybody in East Texas are Cowboy fans. So there's a fan base, and they sell out, but it all comes from the New Orleans area.
I see Saints fans everywhere I go.
Maybe this is controversial. I think there are more Saints fans than Falcons fans. I'd put the Falcons on the list before the Saints.
See, I don't see Saints fans anywhere I go.
Here's the thing, John. I think anybody that's won a Super Bowl in the last 20 years has a bigger fan base. I think Cincinnati are probably not. They didn't win a Super Bowl, but I think anybody that wins a Super Bowl gets that latch on percentage of people that then buy the jersey, fall in love with them from far away, unreasonably. It break all my fan rules, but become out-of-town fans. And I think that happened with the Saints.
John, if you want the smallest fan base for the future, just let the mayor of Dallas add another team there. That'll wrap up this conversation real quick.
It's interesting. There are more people here in Houston than are in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Metroplex combined. There's more people in San Antonio than Dallas. But Dallas, of course, gets most of the attention because they've got the Cowboys. And there's no way Jerry Jones is ever going to allow a second team there unless he owned both of them.
What is the Cowboys-Texans split in the city of Houston, in the greater Houston area?
Oh, I'd say about 70-30 with Texans fans. That's the way it was with the Oilers. People here always freaked out about all the Cowboy fans. And I've told them for decades, Cowboy fans in Houston are like mosquitoes, roaches, humidity, and traffic. You just learn to live with them.
John McClain.
That's good advice.
Sports Radio 610 there in Houston. Final thing for you, John. Daniel Jones says that the lack of success has weighed on me a great deal. That's his quote. What do you make of the quarterback in New York / New Jersey who's in the final year of his deal? They didn't pick up the option, and here are the Giants rolling the dice and saying one more year with Jones to figure it out with a new head coach.
They've done him a terrible injustice. They've changed head coaches and coordinators, I believe, every year. That means new terminology every year. Now they got new ones again. If it doesn't work out for them, he's gone. If it works out and he's really good, they'll just franchise him if they can't sign him to a new contract.
He's another one of those guys, drafted 6th, the expectations way out of whack. If he's drafted 26, people would be like, he's got a he runs nicely, and he's had a really bad organization around him and stuff. Maybe he'll do something this year.
It's I don't know, not picking up the option. I mean, if he doesn't play well, they're done. They're done with it. But if he does, if they're one of these surprise teams, and you actually have some stability, and it was a coaching issue, it wasn't Daniel Jones's issue, and you're protecting him. Well, now you're paying him among the top, 5 salaries if you tag him on average. And
10,
and that Watson's contract's going to factor in on this, suspension or not, right?
Yep.
So I mean that's going to really affect the overall bottom line if you want to franchise tag Daniel Jones next year where you could have just picked up the 5th-year option. And I'm guessing, I don't know, it's probably $10 million or so less on a 5th-year option for him.
Shows they don't have much confidence in Daniel Jones. He was Gettleman's pick, and everybody was stunned when they drafted him 6th overall. But if you go back and look at his rookie year was pretty impressive.
Follow John on Twitter at McClain_on_NFL. John, happy 4th to you. Enjoy all the festivities there, and we look forward to chatting with you next week.
Cheers.
Jonathan, Paul, and Cadillac, thank you guys very much. I hope you guys have a great 4th.
John McClain with us every week. We love having him on. Here on the show. We will dive back into other headlines throughout the show. There is a pitcher who made his debut finally. I don't understand the investment of Major League Baseball teams, franchises, into the MLB draft and how long they'll wait on these prospects to come to fruition based on these deals.
Of arm problems.
So there is a guy from like 10 years ago that was the number 1 overall pick that over the weekend was just called up for the first time in his career. And I want to discuss the money that is actually poured into the minor league system of Major League Baseball and how, I mean, this is on the far end of it when you finally see a guy debut, but how long do you wait before you just call it done, right? With any franchise, even if he's not starting with the franchise that drafted him. And how long as a player do you keep going on the minor league circuit when all the expectations are that you're supposed to be in the majors by now? That's next on OutKick 360. Summer of 2013 is the date. OutKick 360 rolls on. That's when Mark Appel was drafted into Major League Baseball, number 1 overall to Houston. He just now, in 2022, is getting called up as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies active roster. That is crazy to me. How much investment goes into guys. And the idea that you stick through the minors for that long, for that one chance, who knows how long it lasts. So far, it's been 3 days. But that is a long stretch as the number 1 overall pick to not surface at some point in the month of August, September, to have a chance to be on a roster and put on the uniform.
I don't think there's anything comparable to a call-up from the minors in baseball, in any other sport. In the NFL, you're making it out of training camp. I don't really know. NHL, you're making it out of training camp, or maybe you're getting called up somewhere along the season. But baseball's got the biggest minor league system, even though it's shrunk now, to get that call. And you always see the videos of the minor league manager or team telling the guy he's got the call to the show. And for a guy like this, who's waited that long, it's got to be unbelievable to have somebody pick up your bags when you get there, and the nerves related to finally going out there.
It's
have
also
to be unbelievable.
It's one of the strangest feel-good stories I can remember, in that Houston certainly doesn't feel good about this. I mean, you want to talk about investment. They invest in a guy who's a bust. And, I mean, great. He stuck with it. You hurt one team, right? I mean, those things happen. But, I mean, it's not the typical story of, when I watch Dennis Quaid in The Rookie, like that's a story when he gets the emotional call up to the majors. They're like, man, that's unbelievable. No one believed in this guy. He did it at a later age. Everyone believed in this guy.
No, it's a bust.
And he didn't do it, and he stuck with it, and he grinded through it, and now he's what? On a major league roster. Still hasn't done anything.
Right.
So I'm not raining on the guy's parade. It's just, I have conflicting feelings about a story like this.
Well, I root for anybody that stuck it out that long, but I am a proponent of you have to see the end at some point. But this guy didn't see the end, and now he gets his chance. So I root. If you stick it out that long and you do get the break, I hope it's more than Moonlight Graham.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated just by the investment of not the Phillies, the Astros. I mean, there have been a couple of other teams, I believe, in between. But at age 30, like at some point, you have to get in a room and say, okay, how much is he taking up a roster spot on a minor league system, as many as there are, for simply scouting purposes of guys we're actually going to have the opportunity to call up?
Well, a team clearly thought enough of him to give him that spot.
Yeah, but it's just, again, I go back to, and maybe it's because it's the Phillies, which I'm never going to root for the Phillies.
Yeah.
But if he's in AAA and you're the guy in AA who has worked hard and is younger to get there, and you've over-delivered, you're sitting there thinking, can we give up on this dude already? Like, I'd love to have his signing bonus one time in my life that he got from the Astros to do nothing for that organization. And now he's taking my spot and my shot at the big leagues. I don't know. I don't feel great about it. Like, great. You stuck with it. You got he got this. It was multiple millions. He got his number 1 pick in a signing bonus right off the bat. He can live off of that comfortably while he toils in the minor league and does nothing for these teams and takes somebody else's chance.
It's also rare to see a guy stick with it that long, right? Like as the number 1 overall pick, where the expectations are extremely high.
I don't. Again,
you have an ERA of 9 in the minors.
I don't feel as good about that, because there are stories of guys who make virtually nothing and stick with it into their 30s to get a shot.
But
this guy
Chad,
got a big chunk of money right off the bat.
That makes it even more impressive. This dude's taking bus trips for 9 years, and he's got millions in the bank. Like, if I've got the money, I'm not putting up with that.
It's not more impressive, though, because there are plenty of minor league baseball players who go make more money selling insurance, and they do it without a safety net. This guy has a safety net of a signing bonus he got right away, so he can just go play baseball for a living and not worry about the money as much, where other guys are worried about their money and what they're going to do next.
I think I've been pretty consistent. As much as I like to tell people what to do, I'm not telling people when to retire. So I feel all right about it.
Well, he's certainly not. He's no Cy Young winner.
No.
Coming up for
But
Philly.
I think.
We say all that and watch him go win would be like this huge sensation when he takes them out.
Yeah, help the Phillies win the division.
Who are the Phillies playing, and when is he going to pitch? Because I'm going to bet the other team.
The Braves. The Atlanta's in Philly.
That's why he's so
starting
salty.
tonight.
That's why he's so salty. He's nervous.
No, I mean, if it was a Brave, I'd be like, okay, great. Do something now.
Yeah, he has not appeared in a game yet. So we're maybe it's tonight, Chad.
Maybe tonight.
Maybe it's tonight.
I hope he gets rocked. I hope he gets sent right back down to what's the AAA affiliate for Philly? Whatever
Scranton,
it is.
Wilkes-Barre?
Yeah, I
Maybe.
hope he's rocked right back to Scranton tonight.
I'm assuming he was in Scranton when he was called up. I have no idea.
Reggie Miller, famously said, "I'm going to retire Michael Jordan in 1998," and didn't do it. Maybe the Braves going tonight saying, "I'm going to retire this guy. This is going to be his
Scranton,
first and
Wilkes-Barre.
last game."
I remember when everybody always had the same minor league city forever. Like the Yankees, AAA was Columbus. But then
Then they
geography started playing a role.
Then it
They
was
wanted
open bidding.
places to
Then
be
it,
close.
but then geography did
Changed all the time.
Yeah,
For a while, it changed like every year.
like
I mean,
Nashville.
how many places
was
is Nashville
in
been in?
Oakland? Nashville was in Oakland.
Then Milwaukee.
yeah. The
Is it
Rangers.
Milwaukee now?
It's Milwaukee again. It was the Rangers for
Yeah.
a couple of years, but it's just based on the bidding war.
Yeah,
it's
pretty
not
much.
proximity at all. I guess in some cases it
It
is.
is.
In some cases it
Atlanta's
is.
got the Gwinnett Stripers.
Yeah, which is nice
a
because
county
if you
away.
need a starter,
Yeah, bring them right over.
you could drive over.
It's perfect.
But for Nashville Sounds fans,
I'm going to go out there
take
this
us some
weekend
trips to
for
Oakland,
the first time in a
trips
long
to
time.
Milwaukee.
I like it.
The
over
only
there.
consistency is the Preds farm system is also in Milwaukee. But again, they went to
And
went
it's
to
always
Texas.
been there, right?
Yeah, they went to Texas for a couple years, and now they're back with Milwaukee.
Nobody's fighting for the Admirals.
Coming up, the battle for NFL's Sunday ticket, and trying to explain some loud explosion that Chad heard last night, or they're debating in his town. That's next on OutKick 360. Doesn't seem as though we will have any big announcement today in regards to the hearing that's taking place for Deshaun Watson in front of Sue Robinson. OutKick 360, final hour is here. That's the big headline today. Mark Maskey has reported to the Washington Post that he's expecting this hearing to last for days, plural, and that there is no timeline for Sue Robinson to decide on what discipline she will hand down. He also put in there that the NFL is going to present, as if it's been determined, that she is going to allow them to present their case. The league, here's how he worded this. The league is arguing to Sue Robinson for an indefinite suspension of at least one full season. That according to a source. If they are going to argue that, that means she's going to hear it, and that would mean the NFLPA would also have rebuttal, if not the opening stance, which is that they don't think he should be suspended. And somewhere in the middle, there will be the law handed down through Sue Robinson that the NFL can then add to or take away from based on how they view it.
And the few days just leads me to believe that it's that perfect timeline of that Friday afternoon going into 4th of July holiday news dump that's going to happen. That it's all leading towards a Friday announcement around 5 p.m.
I don't think it'll be done by then.
Not it's going to be later than that?
Not the Goodell part.
What part of the Goodell part?
The part where it goes to Goodell and he...
Oh, I think Goodell will immediately make a ruling whenever it comes to him. What else would he need? You think he's going to take time to deliberate after they've already done their investigation?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll be automatic she to him and it's out.
I will be surprised if we don't find out something on Friday.
I don't think it's out this week.
It's only Tuesday. I think
we have time. Even if it's also, multiple days, we still have time.
If the reports are accurate that they want at least a year, then this is just for show anyway.
Well, I mean, I don't know how long it takes, but I mean, for show. But they're going to present a case to her. Who knows how long that takes in the bureaucracy?
But they're presenting a case because they want her to side with them, and they'll just point to her as the end of the agreed upon disciplinary judge for this case.
All right,
through the NFL and the NFLPA.
It feels like they're just going through the motions right now. I think they know exactly what they want to do with Deshaun Watson. It's just going through procedure and letting this last little bit play out and then giving their announcement, their ruling. There's too many reports coming out about the intentions of the NFL and that they want to get to an indefinite but at least a year suspension. For me not to believe that they've already made up their minds.
Oh, I would agree.
And we'll know as soon as this is done, days, by the end of the week. That's how I take this. He didn't say weeks. We will know through the NFLPA what the suspension is if it's anything less than a year, right? They'll make sure that gets out for Goodell to come back over the top to suspend him indefinitely.
Oh, I mean, I think it'll have to be formally announced either way.
But the actual...
how it goes. I mean, that Goodell adjusts it, I think will have to be formally known either way. That Goodell or his rep.
The battle for NFL Sunday ticket package is interesting to follow because of the money and the streaming services involved in this. So Amazon, Apple, and Disney are all vying for the out-of-market package of the NFL Sunday ticket.
I can't believe this is taking so long.
This was on, excuse me,
there's just no avoiding it to some degree.
Well, I turned mine off. So for the sake of the show, turn the alerts off. Amazon, Apple, and Disney, they are vying for the package that DirecTV was owning, the NFL Sunday ticket. My question is, what does this do to DirecTV by losing this? And what does Amazon, Apple, or Disney gain by $2.5 to $3 billion annually for this package? That's what the NFL is looking for.
I mean, I think
Thursday Night Football is costing Amazon $1 billion a week, or a season. Excuse me, a season. Now it's a multi-year deal. It's like a 10-year package. The league is looking for $2.5 to $3 billion per year for NFL Sunday Ticket.
I think people out of market are, do practically anything they have to see the full telecast of their team play. Diehard NFL fans, and most people are, more than anything else in the sports world. If you leave home and you're devout for your team, this is priority one. And I don't know that many people who have DirecTV, but everybody I know that does have DirecTV, I think
I have
has
DirecTV.
it because of this.
I have DirecTV. I don't have the package. To
I
be
don't either.
honest. So I'm
But you're
I'm
not
rare
out of
with
market. You're not out of market. I mean,
I'm not out of market fan. I can watch highlights and watch games in different ways. But the part about this is curious to me is the health of DirecTV. That's one entity I don't hear a lot about in terms of it's doing well or not. When Netflix takes a huge hit, you hear about it immediately. When streamers do, right? This is doing well. This isn't. Stock is up. Stock is down. Whatever. I don't hear a lot about DirecTV. They're owned by AT&T. AT&T is doing fine. Last I checked, it's a huge company. So what is the future of DirecTV? I don't know. They have DirecTV Stream, where you can just stream DirecTV without the dish. Also, that's part of it. So
what was the previous price?
They were on the hook for $1.5 billion for the upcoming season.
I must think they think they're going to be okay without it. Otherwise, they'd be in it, right?
Well, what does this do for
They've lost money on
the
it.
sports interest? You said Disney, Apple, Amazon, right? Are the
Yes.
bidders?
Yep.
What does that? So Disney owns ESPN. How ESPN-ish is this if Disney takes over?
But it's another.
What does it do for the sports interest of these companies?
It's another tier in all of these things, right? Not an automatic thing. If I have Apple, I'm not just getting Sunday Ticket. I would be buying another level of Apple to get.
Yeah,
Sunday
I mean
Ticket.
So DirecTV, you had to be a DirecTV subscriber, and they were charging you on top of your monthly price $300 annually for NFL Sunday Ticket. That price was really not that negotiable because DirecTV is paying the NFL for the rights to Sunday Ticket. The NFL, based on the contracts for Fox and CBS, where you're picking up these games for NFL Sunday Ticket, they're then doing some back channeling to pay the networks for the rights to distribute exclusive content, DirecTV only.
And you said DirecTV was taking a loss on it. So
about $500 million
DirecTV
annually.
Yeah,
is what they reported.
DirecTV was getting their sports niche people despite the loss. I don't know. Maybe I'm overestimating the value of the commodity.
It is reported that, and this is through Front Office Sports, that Disney/ESPN Plus, they're willing to tack on, according to them, between $1 billion and $1.5 billion. That is what DirecTV was slated to pay this upcoming season. So, or the final year of their agreement. So they're willing to start there. And the question would be, is the NFL going to be able to get Amazon or Apple that can just, they print money, right? Compared to, everyone's printing money when it comes to the NFL. But Amazon and Apple, they can just make it happen, right? The question is, how much further do they take it up to acquire this? And what is that true value? Other than you're kind of sniping out DirecTV and ESPN Plus in the process of acquiring.
Are
the
we
product.
overvaluing the commodity based on DirecTV's loss?
Well, it takes, but I guess the question would be, what do you pair it with? And with DirecTV getting out and with ESPN Plus not getting it, are you in essence in a big picture, are you gaining the NFL property that ESPN desperately wants? I mean, they've added to their package. They're already paying like $2.7 billion for their current package that they have with the league, and that would tack on extra for NFL Sunday Ticket. I guess, is it valuable to not have someone paying more to ESPN and instead taking that to Amazon or Apple, as that company would view? What's the NFL sticker worth to
if
you?
I'm ESPN or if I'm Amazon, I'm thinking people have to have me because their team is going to be on Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football at some point. So I've already got them, NFL-wise.
It's most valuable to Apple.
It's most valuable to the other entity that doesn't have anything.
And I would
then
also
you're forcing
think,
me to buy 3 things.
yes, and I would also think to the NFL, Apple is more valuable because it just gives them another gigantic, the richest company in the world as part of what they're doing. So there's a foot in the door. We know they're going to bid on other things moving forward with the NFL. There's going to be some partnership with that. So that, I think we just made the deal. That right there. Here, Apple, meet NFL, and let's get this thing done. This is where it should move.
It sucks for a consumer, particularly an out-of-market diehard fan who wants to watch his or her team every game, because in order to do so, you would need Apple, ESPN through your cable system, or ESPN Plus as a separate streaming entity, and Amazon as a separate streaming entity. So you've got to have those 3 then to watch everything. But that's no different because you needed DirecTV previously. So you're just trading DirecTV for Apple. And on DirecTV, at least you had on DirecTV, you had ESPN. So you're going from 2 to 3.
So the NFL, the league is looking to package Sunday Ticket with a stake in NFL media. So this is that app that they were talking about. They want to pair this NFL media app with whoever they choose in the streaming category. That can be ESPN Plus, but it's most likely Amazon or Apple. And so if you're partnering with the league, what's that worth? And you're also getting Red Zone. You're getting whatever they're going to end up doing with NFL.com. And then you're getting the exclusive package for Sunday Ticket. That's what they're trying to pull off here.
I don't want that app.
Well, you may have to have it. That's the point.
You know what?
The NFL's saying the fans don't want the app. We're going to partner with the Apple or Amazon and force you to get it, and you're going to pay for it. That's what they're telling you.
And they're also, and it's not, they don't have to tell us this. We're going to do it.
As a consumer, I'm not excited about what's on that app as compared to, again, I'm starting with the minimum. I want to watch my team games first and foremost. That's my concern. Now you're going to force the app on me and raise the price of that thing for content that I'm not as determined to have, is nowhere near as important to me.
The USFL is returning for the 2nd season. That was officially made known earlier this week for season number 2. They're about to wrap up the first season with a championship game this coming Sunday evening on Fox as Birmingham takes on Philadelphia for the USFL Championship. The quarterback of the Birmingham Stallions, Jamar Smith, joins us next on OutKick 360. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram at OutKick360. You'll be able to see us and our production assistant, Gracie Fontaine. We're going to rate best dressed at the NBA draft.
And we know style.
It's going to be fun.
Look at us. We know style. That's going to be up at OutKick360's Instagram
We call
feed.
it 3 guys in polo shirts.
Hutton, may I jump in for a quick Twitter beef of the day before we get to our guest here soon?
Yeah.
So,
other than TweetDeck going away July 1st?
yeah, I got to figure out a solution here because
Well,
I've not
everybody
looked
uses
into
this.
other
I don't,
options.
But everybody I know uses it. Why would it go away?
It's
It
for
makes
Mac
no
users.
sense.
It's for Mac and Apple.
Yeah, it's no longer going to be available for Mac.
But just
on
take
my
away
computer.
something that everyone uses.
Apple will do that.
I mean, I don't know. We need send us suggestions. I'm going to post this also, but
I've
I
looked
need to
them
know
up.
what to get on Mac that I can quickly go to it. Here's the other problem I'm having right now.
The best
I don't
ones,
know
Chad.
any of my I don't know any of my passwords.
Yeah.
I'm just logged in on this computer.
I agree with that, too. I'm going to have a real struggle.
I may get
with
locked
that.
out of Twitter forever
The best
because I'm trying to
options
log
Big
other
in
than-
10
weekend.
times.
Big weekend coming.
Other than TweetDeck, which is where you can monitor multiple feeds and different categories of Twitter. They're all monthly subscriptions, except for TweetDeck, which
look,
is going away.
Maybe this will be a good thing for me so I don't have to see my Twitter feed during the show with my computer
And
open
come up with
anymore.
this.
Because I tweeted out what I've always said. When people complain about us not talking a lot about college baseball, I say, do you get equally upset when we don't talk about college softball? Because the television audience is virtually the same. Ratings came out today. College baseball's up 500,000 viewers from Vandy, Mississippi State a year ago to Ole Miss, Oklahoma in the championship series this year. That puts them dead even with the softball, the World Series final between Texas and Oklahoma. So I just say, once again, college softball has the same amount of eyeballs watching it as college baseball.
I prefer the softball.
And I get people coming out of the woodwork. I've got blue checkmark college baseball guys
Oh, yeah.
coming in telling me why I'm wrong not to well, this guy's clearly uninformed. This guy, what did I say that's factually incorrect? And also, why do people care so much if I don't like college baseball? It's amazing how the college baseball truthers of the world get so worked up about this. It's a problem with the sport. It's not that heavily watched.
I would love to go to Omaha and take in a College World Series, but I'm not invested in the College World Series.
Weren't there 2
Right.
passed balls that were crucial in the final game?
I
on
don't even
Sunday?
know.
Yes, I don't know the exact, but I know that there were back-to-back pass balls gave the tying run and go-ahead run to Ole Miss in the deciding game.
I know.
I don't know what happened after
That's
that. They ended up
quality
winning by
baseball.
multiple
Ole
runs, I
Miss
think.
and Mississippi State back-to-back years. More power to them. Congrats to the
Absolutely.
Rebs.
I
even-
met that in the Mississippi.
I
Yeah.
even tweeted a congrats saying the state of Mississippi is the mecca of college baseball right now with the last 2
How
champions.
dare you?
It's just, and now, but this is what happens. So now I've got someone with a bunch of Twitter followers and a blue check mark that's like retweeting me saying, everyone let Chad know something he should know about college baseball.
I don't know
to
why
be
it's
more
bad to
informed.
have a blue check mark.
What do you mean? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying they've been
You're saying it's not some
they've been
troll.
approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been. I'm saying they're actual media members covering the sport. It's not just the troll accounts that are after me. It's the college baseball writer that's after me.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. Jamar Smith available? He's with us? Awesome. We say hello to the Birmingham Stallions quarterback playing for the USFL Championship this Sunday. 6:30 Central is the kickoff time Sunday evening on Fox as Birmingham takes on the Stars of Philadelphia. Jamar, great to have you on the show, man, and congrats on the Season 1 success.
I think he's out.
Oh, he's not there.
So
Okay.
another thing on college baseball.
Now, what about
Chad.
this big bang?
Oh man,
Chad, I'm going to have you repeat what I just said for the intro with Jamar coming up. But we will be
I will.
watching.
No, I'll give a great intro when we come.
So
back.
there is a big debate in your neck of the
So,
woods on an explosion from last night that
Yeah.
a lot of people heard.
The town I live in, close to Nashville,
Mount Juliet.
Mount Juliet,
it's
for
called.
those that are familiar with the area. Last night we get an alert, not the blue alert we got earlier for something separate, but a Mount Juliet PD alert that they are investigating the explosion that happened in this area of Mount Juliet. So Angie's in bed at this point. I'm watching Larry Sanders' show. So I continue my binge of this old show, and I'm like, okay, that's weird. Don't really think much anything else of it. Well, today, once again, they don't know what it is. So there's all this speculation about the explosion and the sound that was heard. So I'm watching these videos, and everyone is on Facebook, of, Ring cameras on doors of, what's going on and the sound of the explosion. And people are speculating whether or not, no, we have our guest here. So, in fact, I'll get back to this later. That's the tease. We don't yet know what the explosion is, but you guys are going to flip out when you hear what people think it may have been.
J'Mar Smith with us now as he plays for the title this coming Sunday night. He's the quarterback of the Birmingham Stallions. J'Mar, great to have you on the show, man.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure. I appreciate you for having me. Sorry about the trouble we have right now, but we're all good.
It's totally fine. The run you guys have been on, and I realize you're playing for the title, so no harm, no foul. How upset are you with that one loss?
Not too upset. We had a goal to, win them all for sure. But we hit a little bump in the road to try to reset ourselves and get back on the right track. So we know the job we have to do, the things we have to do to go out and put points on the board and go out and finish the season strong with the win.
How much were you guys the hometown favorite, being the local team, so to speak?
Yeah. If you ever seen any one of the games, it was about 100 people there in the stands, so you could just about hear everything happen on the field. But for us, man, the fans, the energy that we had at our games was unmatched compared to any of the other games, man. And we really appreciate the fans who come out there with the support. There's been many games that the offense wasn't doing pretty well, and I thought we was gonna get some boos throughout the rest of the game. But our defense, showed up, and then the fans just brought the energy that we needed. So we definitely appreciate them.
How do you feel physically right now? At the end of this long season, one game left, do you feel like you felt, during a college football season? Is it comparable? Have they done a good job of preserving you physically throughout the year?
Oh, yeah. We work out at least 3 times a week. That workout schedule a little bit different. College workout a little bit on the heavier side with more weights. Right now, we do a lot of more mobility type stuff, just trying to make sure we're staying flush and flexible throughout the season and recover some of those injuries. But when you're having fun, man, time flies, man. I was talking to some guys recently. It's like, man, we just feel like we just got here at the beginning of March, and now we're just about the last game of the season, and we're grateful, to still be one of the 2 teams that's still standing. So, most of the guys just want to just stay healthy, making sure that, they can sustain their bodies for what could come next with, the NFL, CFL, whatever is in whoever plans, and just make sure, like I said, stay healthy, physically and mentally, just to, go out there and just try to get a contract, get a call, and make sure that you continue your journey.
I was watching live on NBC on Saturday night. I saw the Gatorade bath for Skip Holtz. You could tell there's a really tight relationship with you guys and your head coach. What's it been like playing for him, and how quickly did you form that bond?
Well, I have a bond different,
Yes.
Well, a lot of guys that came from Louisiana Tech, we kind of have a bond different with Coach Holtz and myself personally, I was at his house just about every day for extra two hours watching film. But, we always together, we always have meeting times. I know throughout some of the meetings, we have like little games. We'll play rock, paper, scissors or do something like that. And then we had some team bonding type stuff where we had like some functions that we just try to get to know our teammates and just bond with them and just build that camaraderie that we have that the people see on the field, but it happens behind closed doors for sure. Just the things that we do, some of the games that we play, and just how we interact with each other. So it's been a great feeling. I really think like they put this team together because they knew how we were gonna bond with each other. But it's been great being with these guys. Like Coach said, I love all of them for real, man.
Birmingham Stallions quarterback J'Mar Smith, our guest. J'Mar, walk us through the feeling of getting the taste of the NFL. Yours was very brief And I don't even know how much time you had behind the scenes in New England.
3 months.
All my time with the Wings was behind the scenes. It was all meetings with Coach McDaniels, Coach Belichick, and Coach Jed Fish that was there. And we met. I'm telling you, man, it was. I never stared at a computer screen for so long, man. I promise you, because it was all Zoom meetings. It was the COVID year in 2020, and we had all our meetings over Zooms. I said, man, my eyes are just tired of just sitting there at the screen. But I really grew as a player, just understanding the game, the structures, the knowledge of another offense coming from college to really a pro style, a really blue collar type system with Coach Belichick and how he does things there. So, the opportunity could come in the near future, but, just keep my head down, stay humble, just keep going to work.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to make you extremely hungry. And then given the COVID season, I mean, did you actually even step foot in Foxborough at the practice facility?
No, sir. The day I was supposed to fly up there, literally, I got cut. My flight was at 1:30. I got cut at 11:45. I still remember it. So it was heartbreaking for sure because the one of the two coaches I really wanted to play for was Coach Mike Tomlin and then Coach Bill Belichick because of the way they love to win, the way they ran things, and there's some guys or some coaches that I've always watched. And my dad, he played in the league, and there was some guys that he played for Coach Belichick once, and the other coach he wanted to play for was Coach Mike Tomlin. So just being, like I said, being there really helped me grow in a lot of areas I needed to grow in, and then just help me to be better in my game with some of the things that the coaches have taught me.
You were an excellent two-sport guy. You got drafted by the Padres, 24th round in 2015 as a catcher. I'm curious if when you declined to sign there, have you paid attention to the Padres and to what the Padres have done at catcher since then?
Yes, sir. I've been wondering if they had, like a tryout. I could just go catch a bullpen to see if my pop time still looks like, to see if I still got it. But no, I'll definitely keep up with the games. I'm trying to catch a Cleveland Guardian game pretty soon before we head out of here, just to feel that atmosphere, man. Just be out there and just see the diamond once again. When I was in Birmingham, we went to a Barons game, which was pretty cool. So, man, just being a kid that loved baseball, always trying to stay around the game, and like you said, declining that offer as an 18-year-old. A lot of people call me crazy, but there's a lot more to it. But no, it was. I played 2 years in college at Louisiana Tech as well, so I still got a little bit of taste of it. But trust me, I definitely missed the game of baseball.
Who was your team growing up? Who do you root for?
Well, growing up, I was I was a Red Sox fan because my dad he played with the Patriots, and then my first ever game I went to was a Red Sox game. I almost caught a ball at the wall, so that was just so fun for me. And then one of my favorite players then was on the team was Manny Ramirez. He had the same number as me, 24. That was my birthday number, so it became my favorite number on the baseball field. Then over time, Adrian Beltre became my favorite player. Just love the way he played the game, man. He had so much fun out there, and everyone saw it. I promise you, every time he was on ESPN, it was him making a play or him just showing how big of a kid he was, just having fun out there. So, just seeing the guys out there have fun. I know some guys that's pitching right now, DeMarcus Evans for the Rangers. He's doing a great job. I always talk to him because me and him was two guys in Mississippi that played two sports. He got drafted same year, I think 28th round to the Rangers. He ended up staying with them, and he's doing. I think he's got caught up, so I'm really excited for him.
Tell us the story of missing that ball at Fenway. Did you drop it? Did somebody else steal it from you?
Yeah, it went right over my head, man. It literally, I thought I had it. Like the eyesight, my eyes were on. My eyes got big. I said, "Yeah, I got it, man." It went right over my head. I was like, "Goodness, man!" But I definitely got to get to some more games for sure. I want to try to get to a Yankee game pretty soon. Probably in the next couple of weeks after we get this championship.
Jamar Smith, our guest, a play that I'm sure still sticks out as the craziest you've ever been involved with, and I don't know if you can top it. It's not a great one. Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech.
I knew it was coming.
3rd and 93.
Oh, 3rd and 93.
So it was. I'll let you set the stage, but everyone remembers the SportsCenter play here, and it turns out in Mississippi State's favor. But it's second and goal, and if it's not second and goal, it's extremely close, and it turns into 3rd and 93.
Yep, that was one of the greatest plays of my life. was going to we had a chance to go score, and I wasn't ready for the snap. I was going to check with the offensive lineman to another play, and by the time I did, the center heard me say another word and snapped it. So that started the parade right there. So when I tried to get the ball, it felt like someone put the football in a bucket of oil, and I couldn't grab it at all. It just started slipping. So then the thing that I messed up on, I tried to scoop it and pick it up instead of just falling on it and killing the play right there. And when I didn't do that, then that's when I became famous for the third and 93. So I definitely appreciate my man CJ Powell from we'll start off with let's thank Cam McKnight for slowing them down. Then let's thank CJ Powell for going to make the tackle from the other side of the field. So yeah, I'm waiting for a third and 95 or third and 99 because I'm definitely going to be waiting for that. You know what I mean?
The errant snap, an 87-yard loss. We will never see that again.
Man.
And it went past Jamar.
I'm the person that I hope it happens again. I hope it happens again.
Hey, we don't want it to happen this week for sure. Birmingham taking on Philadelphia for the USFL title, 6:30 Central Time on Fox. Tell us when we tune in, what's the game plan? Well, what are you expecting? You've already beaten this team once in the regular season.
Yes, sir. 1-0 mindset. I don't like, I'm always a guy that thinks about, winning the day, winning the game that we have that week. And just go out there execute at a high level for us, man. Like you said, we played them before. There's round 2 for us, man. We just got to go out there, execute better, be smarter, be faster, because there's no more do-overs right now, man. It's I hate to say like this, but it's do or die in this situation because, with the season we've had, the things we've done, and just some of the things that we had as a goal to go win and just finish the season out with the championship, man. That's the thing we got to go do. So, starting today really with the means and just getting everyone right with the game plan and everything, it feels good. I feel good going to this game.
I got one more thing for you. Did the league set you up with a tour of the hall last week?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We went to the Pro Hall of Fame, man. I felt like a little kid, man. I tried to take as many pictures as I could before my phone died, but then the one piece that stood out to me was, of course, you see my name in there. After the first game, I gave my towel that I used for the game, signed it and everything, and just seeing that in the Hall of Fame, man, just that's a piece that's going to be right there for a long time, and just feels good. Like I'm getting chills thinking about it because no one ever, just being from Meridian, Mississippi, man, you don't have that many opportunities just to do great things in this world, in this life. So I really just appreciative of all the things I've came across, and then just being there, having that tour, and then the opportunity to come up here in Canton, Ohio from the USFL, man. Just being here, just the birthplace of football, just a new scenery for being in the hub of Birmingham. So I'm just excited to be here and ready to bring the championship back.
Hey, man, you brought some excitement to the league. Great play this year.
Yes.
Hopefully it leads you to a camp this summer/fall,
yes,
and we'll be watching this Sunday. Best of luck to you.
Good luck.
Yes, sir. I appreciate everyone, man. I appreciate the opportunity of being here. I just thank you all for everything. Hey, one thing, though. Giddy up, baby. Giddy up.
There is Jamar Smith, quarterback of the Stallions. We should have asked him if he has the same celebration as the linebacker.
With the horse.
No, it was the shark dog.
Shark dog.
Right? That was Scooby Wright. He
Scooby
had
Wright.
the shark dog celebration.
He had the shark dog, but he got the penalty for riding the pony, right? That's what he said he was doing for the celebration, for the unsportsmanlike.
Yeah,
he was
with
riding,
the Stallions.
Yeah,
right?
so he was riding the pony, and then at the end he gave us the old giddy up. So
I'm
there's
all
Jamar
for
doing the same.
A good team-themed celebration like that. Can't beat it.
And Jamar's got a great story. And man, what a great, I don't know if it was pre-planned or not, but Jamar was not the quarterback drafted in Birmingham for the USFL draft. Skip Holtz, though, I don't know if he knew he was coming to the league or Jamar couldn't decide, but he ends up playing for his college coach. I mean, and since then they've lost one game. So,
seems like he stored him away.
Yes.
Wait to declare for this league, and then I'll just pick you up.
Yes.
Then you can come play.
And that's us giving Skip Holtz a ton of credit, which he would deserve for having that foresight.
Fun dude.
I've not heard one negative thing spoken about Skip Holtz in this league. Everyone we talk to that works with the USFL, everyone that's around him, just loves that guy. As very positive
selection for Birmingham's coach.
It's the perfect marriage of coach and city and league for what they're trying to do.
For sure.
And he's going for a championship.
How about 3rd and 93?
That was great.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and watch that.
The only thing better would be if they pick up the 3rd down. They didn't. They did gain like 20-something yards, though, on 3rd down. End up punting.
Got a little breaking
4th
news
and
here.
50. Right.
Serena Williams is out at Wimbledon. Harmony Tan upset Serena Williams in the opening round of Wimbledon.
Her first
and
match.
Someone feels good about this
right?
because at 1-1 in the sets, I put some money on Harmony Tan.
Oh, Harmony.
At plus 470 when they were tied. And Harmony Tan gets it done.
Oh, how things have changed in Chad's betting favor.
Oh, I'm back, baby. I am back.
All right, so coming up, we're going to determine what this big bang was in Chad's town last night, because
I've got a strong opinion on
people
what I
heard
think
explosions
it was.
and
One explosion.
One explosion.
Let's make it bigger.
And people.
There were explosions.
There
all
was
over.
one explosion with multiple ideas and
Yes.
guesses as to what it could be, and those theories are out there. And I would say
alien ship
they would rival something that Jacob or Corey would come up with in studio. That's next on OutKick 360. you guys see the story where Dan Snyder allegedly had milk poured into the Nationals owner's box so that it would smell like soured milk?
Yeah.
Based on a deal that did not go in his favor? Was it Lerner? Is that his name?
It's a very 11-year-old summer camp move by Dan Snyder. Yep. I'm going to make your suite smell like sour milk.
And this came out from the assistant who was told to do it, right?
Yeah. They had to pour milk underneath the chair where Lerner would sit in the suite later that week.
So the carpet would get disgusting.
Maybe he's lactose intolerant, and there's the next level to this prank?
Maybe. That's gross. But, I mean, that stadium is bad. Bad.
So quickly, to close up this story that keeps getting interrupted by guests that come on our show. Crazy explosion last night in Mount Juliet. Half the city heard it. Okay? It happened in a very specific place, the cops think. They're tweeting out, we are investigating the mysterious explosion that many of you are calling about that you heard. I've watched, on Facebook, there's videos on Ring door cameras of the explosion. Hutton, I played it for you before the show. You can hear something goes off. Hutton's immediate thought was, it sounds like a cannon being blasted.
Yeah.
It sounded like almost like a firearm. Well, the cops were saying they do not believe it's a firearm, that it was some sort of explosion. So now there's all of these theories that it's a meteor that hit in Mount Juliet.
There's no way.
And I'm thinking, wouldn't
people
we
know
that
that's coming.
or see that happening if it happened? Here's my theory on what happened.
Okay.
A meth lab blew up. And wherever it was hidden in the woods somewhere. And whoever had the meth lab isn't going to come forward and say this was the explosion.
Yeah, but the authorities would find the site of
there
the
would be smoke.
former meth,
There would be
meth lab.
I would think so.
Via smoke.
So then where?
Correct.
But they
That's
still
why
have
I
not figured out what happened. This happened at 10 o'clock at night, so it's not it's not broad
That's
daylight
why
where
I
you
think
see
it's
smoke.
like an old cannon or something like that someone fired, because that's something
like
you
Billions,
fire.
The plot in Billions, the guy with the cannon,
and
that
then
he was
you can
firing off.
easily put it away or cover it up, and there's
Put
no
the tarp back
there's no
over.
smoke. There's no like if a meteor hits town, well, we would know.
No, I don't think
We
it's a
would
meteor.
know.
I was laughing at that when I saw it on the neighborhood Facebook page.
If there is a meth lab that explodes, I mean, trust me, living in Warren County, when a meth lab explodes, everyone knows about it, and it's in the paper. Like, it's not
The
something
Southern Standard.
It's not something that you can just hide in the woods because you can't find it. So it's got to be something that was fired and that was put away.
This is back-to-back very weird occurrences in my hometown. 3 houses up the street from me in my neighborhood on Sunday, 3 fire trucks showed up. Cops come screaming in because there was a mulch fire that caught someone's house. And the neighbor saw it. They're just inside, knew nothing about it, and their deck caught on fire because of the heat and mulch that was apparently clumped together in a way. Maybe they were storing it, kind of like a fertilizer fire, obviously. And it caught fire. They put it out quickly. There was no huge problems. But then that happens, and then one night later, a mysterious explosion, which leads me to believe, what's next for me? What's next for maybe an actual meteor hits Mount Juliet tonight?
Now,
Who knows?
It does sound like you click the red button and the barn blows up.
Did
I
you
mean, that's
hear
what
it?
it sounds like.
Did you hear it, Chad?
I did not hear it.
Did others
There are
hear it?
people in our-
I want to know what it sounded like. I want a description.
The site where
Was
they
it-
It sounds like a
described it
cannon.
happening is probably 5 miles from my neighborhood, and there are people in my neighborhood claiming they heard it.
Was it a kaboom? Was it a wham?
I mean, I'll play it for you after the show. It's a boom. It's an explosion.
The reason why I think it sounds like cannon fire. It sounds like Gillette Stadium if you were 400 yards away from the stadium after Tom Brady throws a touchdown pass to Randy Moss with the cannons going off like that. It happens one time and it's done. That's why I think that someone got out the old rusty cannon and fired it up, getting ready for July 4th.
But
Down in the
also,
cannon column.
it's also possible that like a group of idiots just got together and tried to blow something up and succeeded.
Yeah, but if you blow something
Right.
up, there are remnants. When 911 calls in and all the calls come in, and you investigate and you find where the fire is, especially in the middle of the night.
Well, I mean, they could be busy. People are speeding on the highways, and it's very important that they get those people.
The key with this
I mean,
is
my
it was
town,
hidden.
the police department is very efficient. Like, if anything goes south, like there are cops everywhere, and almost immediately all the time. Which that's why I don't understand how they still to this moment don't know what happened. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's quite a mystery.
Like, wouldn't something, even if it was a bunch of like high school kids that blew something up, someone would say something or they'd find something with that out in the field somewhere.
I'm eager to know what's next.
Putting NFL contracts in perspective, because we throw out a lot of millions on the show. Consider this. Russell Westbrook just opted in to a $47 million contract next season. $47 million for a guy who nobody really wants on their roster. Kyrie Irving opting in to roughly the same amount of money in Brooklyn. And he could have demanded a sign and trade. Like, the money that is tossed around in guarantees in these opt-ins by the player, not the team, in the NBA is crazy to me, considering where the NBA is on the pecking order of hierarchy of professional leagues.
I know there's more opportunity roster-wise in the NFL, but if you have a chance, if you are a great basketball player and a great football player, and you don't opt to play basketball, if you can make the highest level, that's not a smart move. You should absolutely play basketball. I understand not everyone sits there and has the option at 16, 17 years old. I'm going to go to the NBA or the NFL. I can decide right now which path to take. That's not in the cards for a lot of people, but you should go to the NBA.
Well, baseball's pretty good.
Yes, baseball also. And there's more opportunity in baseball than the NBA as well.
And less chance of
But hey,
bad knees. For
The
life.
NFL's headed towards guaranteed contracts for everyone too, and you're just holding out and getting whatever you want from teams as well. So maybe, eventually they'll be right there with MLB, NHL with guaranteed contracts, and NBA.
None of it's terrible, but the just crazy top dollar contracts that are only going up in the NBA. These max deals to guys who are not. I mean, they're franchise players for their franchise, but they're not franchise players, and they're getting. I mean, LeBron. Consider LeBron is on a roster. You've got. I mean, they acquire Westbrook, and the big topic is whether or not he's going to be back in LA, and he controls all the leverage based on the opt-in or opt-out he has with the deal that they traded for. Crazy money. But yet, the Browns can't figure out a way to trade Baker Mayfield and pay for $12 to $15 million of his contract.
Money.
Who do the Yankees have tonight, Paul?
I think they're still finishing up with Oakland, who I did not realize is one of the two worst teams in baseball, apparently.
They have nothing to play for. I mean, they're actually, it's almost like they're sabotaging the home games. They play better on the road. Wow.
They've been taking leads and giving them up.
They play better on the road, given the fact that no one's there to watch them at home. So,
yeah, the broadcaster said that Yankees broadcaster said they were talking to Oakland broadcasters saying, like, how are you trying to salvage this thing when you sell off all the good players and can't get anybody to come watch the games? And the broadcasters were like, the owner doesn't speak. We don't really know anything.
The owner doesn't care either. He's trying to get the team in Vegas.
It's an awful situation.
The broadcasters probably are too, for that matter. We're back at it tomorrow. We will have primary complaint and much more, and we'll continue to watch the Watson hearing on OutKick 360.
Don't block the box. Do please lock your locks.